didn't get fed. We've made a food run to Quiznos and try to get some sandwiches in here before you leave, because I know you right off your class again. We're going to get started. And it's our pleasure today to have brought in Larry Holland. Larry Holland's a good friend of mine from the business school. And I can't believe the number of people from the business school this time. I wonder why that is. Anyway, we're really proud of Larry. Typically, it's the younger people that bring technology to the department. And in Larry's case, well, be careful.
How are you going to phrase this?
I just left a couple of bats there and said, figure this out. He's our techie. He's the guy that is ahead of us all in the business school on technology, especially for online education. And just a couple of things about Larry. He came to education late. He was an engineer in a previous life. And I'm not certain what brought him in. He might tell us, but I'm not certain what made him switch from being chemical engineer, right? He's from the Missouri, Oklahoma. He's from down this way for many years. He's been with us for, I think, 15 years. And he teaches finance in the business school, as I said. And you all have one of these that he wrote it, and I think it's probably pretty good. One thing about him that's well, not unique, there aren't too many of them, he's a chartered financial analyst, which is a tough thing to get, very difficult thing to get. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Larry, and I'll bring the sandwiches out when they arrive.
I'm actually very honored. I expected 3 or 4 people to show up. It worked out really well. I'm going to talk a little bit about using, I call it technology outside of the box. In the last couple of weeks, we've had some outstanding presentations. I mean, we had Cliff Mims from Memphis. He gave us a checklist of a lot of new technologies, almost the entire list I've never seen before. So there's just a lot of really cool stuff there. And about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Katie and Mark made a great presentation on how to use Blackboard. So I'm not going to try to do any of that. I'm going to actually go backwards a little bit and try to make an application of these things and actually try to demonstrate from a teaching point of view how you would use some technology. The first thing I noticed in this room is that this is not a typical classroom. And so I'm looking around and said, if I wanted to go to a whiteboard, where would I go? And the answer is, I don't have a whiteboard. So I'm going to have to use some technology. And some of the things I'm going to show you here can be used in a live classroom. They can also be used in online kind of environment as well. I was going to do an archive of this. We couldn't get the sound system to work in this room yet. We didn't come here early enough to be able to figure out how to make the sound work, so I'm not going to have that available. The first thing I'm going to do is kind of do a little check of people here on what level of technology you are. So I'm going to show you, the next slide is going to show you multiple levels of technology, and I'd like to kind of, if you look at that chart and kind of see where you place yourself. This is what I call the technology staircase. And as you're kind of going around, you kind of see that it keeps on going up. I don't know if you've seen that before or not. You know, when I first saw this, I gotta have one of these. You know, this is a Stairmaster, no moving parts. That's forever. This is where I look at technology. Technology, it just seems like I keep on going up the technology curve, and I just never seem to get there. And actually, so one strategy is to move faster. So moving faster, you're still frustrated. If you stay still for just a couple of years, you're pretty much a dinosaur. What I think probably is a strategy that might work in this kind of environment is to pick something simple, learn how to use it well, apply it in your teaching, and then go on from there. That, in my experience, is probably going to serve you better than trying to learn the 20 best technologies that are available. So there's so much to learn. I would just say find a couple of things to use, and it actually works pretty well to figure out what your purpose is, and figure out what you're trying to accomplish first, and then try to pick types of technology that will help you get there. And I think probably that's probably, if you don't remember anything else of what I said, that's like the most incredibly important thing for you to remember. You need to choose the right tool to meet whatever objective you have. This is in your honor, Jim. And I notice here that I have a hammer, for those of you who are tactile lovers, and I have a screwdriver. If I had to drive a screwdriver in, I wouldn't want to use this tool. It wouldn't work well. Some people, yeah, I've used it before, and I wasn't too happy with it. And this is not very good in putting a nail in, so you have to choose the right tool for the right job. And the last time I did this, Representative Nichols was in the class and said, I think I've got it now. So in terms of pedagogy, you would choose the right tool depending on whether you want to hammer the students or screw the students. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to be switching a lot of different things at once here. You may give a shout. Yeah, there's my granddaughter. Right off the bat, I'm going to show you, this is a tool here, and you notice we're not connected to anything here. This is all, I'm not connected to the screen here. This is a nice way of using, this is right now using a document camera. And this is what I've used in an online thing. But one thing I've got here is I wrote a little, you know, in a document camera, you can kind of sometimes move up to a little larger size. And I might want to move that around. There we go. So here's a little cartoon. And if you want to do a cartoon with an online class, if you're synchronous with your students, or in a live class that doesn't have any whiteboards or anything, this basically says it's a guy, probably an older guy, Steve, bringing in a computer. He's asking the techie squadron, can you get this to run again? And a relatively young person who's in charge behind the counter saying, one moment please. And then we see this other kind of looking at that computer there. Are you sure it's a computer? Is that what our forefathers used? And yeah, check the archives. And I like this cartoon for one reason. I find myself sometimes using some older technology and trying to make it work. That older technology now only has to be a couple of years out of date. And you're now trying to use older technology. Let me kind of switch gears. You might wonder how I'm doing what I'm doing right now, so I think I'll mention that. What I'm doing here is that I've logged on twice on Blackberry. We're actually looking at Blackberry. And the main system over here is my main Blackberry account that I use as an instructor. And over here, I log in as a guest lecturer. And when I logged in as a guest lecturer before you all got here, one of the things I did was upgrade myself to a presenter. So I'm presenting here, and then I'm doing application sharing. Okay? And application sharing basically says anything that's on my computer here will be projected for all the students in the online class to see. Okay? And so that's what we're seeing here, is exactly what a student would see. And I'm picking that up on this computer here and projecting it. Okay. So basically this is, you can see I'm not connected to anything here, and I'm using Wi-Fi. This is like a remote student. Okay? So that's what you're seeing. Let me just, so I thought I'd maybe bring in some teaching materials and talk a little bit about something I don't know anything about, which I do all the time. Constructivist learning. Okay? What does that mean? Well, there's a couple of theories on learning out there. And one of the theories is that students are constructing their learning as they go along. And so what does that matter to us? Well, one of the things that matters to us, why it's important, is that our students are coming into class with something already there that we have to change. See, the old theories would say, your students come in as an empty cup. And we come in with the knowledge, and we're going to just pour the knowledge into the empty cup. And it's there. Or the other analogy, they have a slate. They're an empty slate. We'll come in, and we'll just write something on their slate, and they'll walk away, and they have the knowledge. The problem with that is that they come in with some knowledge. And here's what happens. They come in with their knowledge, and we'll throw some stuff on the side. They'll tack it in on the side of their construct. And then when they're under pressure of an exam, all those things fall off, and they go back to the way they were. And so I can go in class, I teach, I ask in class, and I get all the right answers in class. Then I throw an exam at them, and what happens? They all failed the exam. So wait a minute, we talked about this in class. Why didn't you get it? Well, the problem is, and this is one of the problems. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Do you want to make a learning experience? It needs to be a memorable experience. It needs to be a change, something that will grab hold of their attention. I like to use puzzles and apply the puzzle. And so this is just part of learning something about constructivist learning. Okay. Things are not always what they appear to be. And you know, Steve, I'm really glad that you introduced me the way you did. Since you did, I'm just going to bring up another little tidbit of what, you know, some of the reasons for some of the successes I've had. If you are older or old enough, you can remember some things that your students have never seen. So now some really good jokes that, you know, have been around for like years and years and years, I can bring it back and it's just really fresh for the students. So there's an advantage to being older. I'm going to switch gears and do a little test. Okay? Let's see how well you do. Now this test is going to be very short, and everybody here is going to have to vote. It's a multiple choice exam. A, B, or C. Okay? The exam is going to be thrown up in front of you. I'm not going to give you any more than about 6 seconds. Okay? To do this exam. It's really not hard. And one other rule. Before I do this, it's important for you to be willing to take a risk whenever you do something in class. And I'm going to just say something about that. If you take a risk, what's the worst thing that can happen if you take a risk with something in your class? So your students will look at you and say, oh, that was lame. But that's about the worst it could be. But if you don't take a risk, your classes probably aren't very interesting. And so I think it's important to take a risk. So I'm looking at this audience, and you're frankly older than my students are. Okay, so this may not work, but we'll see. Okay? Now when you answer this question, do not worry about trying to make me feel good. I want you to be right. Okay? Is everybody with me? Don't try to make me feel good. Say, I know what he's doing. I said, yeah, I'll try to make him feel good and I'll vote some others. No, I want you to be right. Are you with me? You gonna do that? Okay. Here's the question. I'm going to give it to you 5 seconds, and then I want you to be able to answer this question. Okay? And notice it's all written here, so I'm going to put it in front of you. It's document camera. It also shows that I'm not cheating. This is a real document camera. Okay. All right. I got a little bit of glare there. Let's see if I can get rid of some glare there. I have 2 lines. It's a little better. 2 lines. And I want to know, which is the longest line? A or B, or are they the same size? Okay? You've had 5 seconds. How many think A is the longest? 1, 2, 3, 4. I think B is the longest. 1. How long do you think they're the same size? Okay. Well, at first glance, you might look at A. You might think that A is longer than B at first glance. That's because it is.
Yeah. It is longer.
It is
That's
longer.
right.
Couldn't
Why
fool
did
me.
you tell me they were the same size? Because you've seen it before. You came into this room saying, I've seen this before, I don't even need to look at them. They are exactly the same size, right? Back to our constructivist learning kind of thing. You came in with a concept that they were going to be the same size. Now I've got to give you a learning experience that will kind of show you that, hey, that's not the same size. In fact, if I'm doing this in class, I'm going to probably do it this way. A little walk like this. Now does it look like they're the same size? No. I got a little, you notice there's like a 6-second lag. This is the lag between sending it up into the wherever it goes, and it comes all the way back down to wherever it comes from. So that's another indication that it's, I don't want to get too technical. But you can see, if I do it this way, clearly line A is bigger than line B.
Good point.
So it's, I do puzzles like this in class because the students will, and they're kind of on to me. Now they're afraid to answer any question. But I do want to kind of, so let's kind of move back a little bit.
Larry, could I just interrupt real quickly? Those of you that didn't get anything, we got some plates and some sandwiches. Could we just eat while you're talking?
Good.
Okay.
So how do you go about changing the knowledge of your students? You don't just throw in some new facts and hope that they'll pick them up. You need, this is me talking. You need some sort of a memorable event, so it's going to actually change and convince us. Just wait a minute, this is that isn't right anymore. So I need to change the way I'm constructing the knowledge and put something else in its place. In other words, I think you need to start thinking like a student. Because when I'm thinking like a professor, I'm thinking, well, here's the stuff they don't know. I'm going to bring it in class. There it is. There's stuff you don't know. And I'll go through the same pattern again. And I'll give you an exam, and you will pass the exam. You know, try to figure out what did I miss. That's because you're bringing something in. So it's important to know something about it. So not only am I telling you about the technology, but I'm also trying to show you a few extra things along the way. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, this is the part that I'm not sure about. We'll see. This is an example that I do in class. Let me see if I can make this right. What I'm going to do completely mess things up. Now see, I'm not connecting anything. I can walk back into the back of the room here. And if I were to come back in the back of the room here, and say, I would, actually I've done this before, I would give a problem to students in the classroom, and I'd sit in front, would you mind working a problem? Which, by the way, if you think about it, intimidates those students. And I'd say, well, wait a minute, they weren't intimidated by me at all. But when I brought this and put it in front, would you mind writing on this, Katie? All of a sudden, why were they intimidated? They're worried about their peers, way more than they are me. So if I have them work a problem in class, that becomes a memorable experience to them. And see, we have U-shaped classrooms like this, and I can't say, go up to the board and work a problem. There's not even a board in here. But I can set this in front of Ray and say, work this problem. Okay? So here's kind of what I would do. 2000 and let's see. Okay. I want to show you how good of an investor I am. I teach finance. I want to teach some finance right now. All right. Okay.
Let's make some money.
Let's make some money. Okay, let's make a lot of money. Okay, this is a portfolio that I'm working with. This is a fake portfolio. $100,000 in 2007. Really did good into 2008, and then the financial crisis came along, and whoops, didn't do so good. So what? Let's calculate a return. Okay, when I had $100,000 and it turned to $200,000, what kind of a return would I get? Plus 100%? Great, sharp group. When I took $200,000 and it turned to $100,000, what was my return?
Minus 50.
See, if it's minus 100%, I lose it all. So it's minus 50. Okay, minus 50%. I'd like to know what my average return is. Those are the returns for 2 years, so I add it up and divide by 2. 100 minus 50 is 50%. Divided by 2. That means I was developing 25% per year. And I can do this consistently. Now, the first thing you're looking at and say, well, wait a minute. Did I make a math error? Did I make a math error, Mark?
Yeah, you did.
No, I didn't.
Well,
Where is it? Show it to me.
well, you didn't make a math. You can't treat percentages the same way you do numbers. So you can't. So you have to divide by the base.
I did not make a mistake. So the students will say, wait a minute. You started with 100,000. You ended with 100,000. I know what kind of return that is. I don't care what you did in the middle. Right? They're saying, so now here's what I do then. So do you know how the returns are reported for a mutual fund? How would you suggest they do it? Let's see, I'd calculate the return each and every year, add them up and divide by the number of years. That's just what I did. The learning exercises say, that doesn't work right. That will give you the wrong answer. And so this is the students come into class with an idea how they think it is. I give them an event like this. They look at that and say, you didn't make a math error, but that's not right. I know it's not right. And then they start changing the way they say, well, maybe that's not the way to calculate a return. And then I show them how to calculate a return the correct way. So see, this is a process I think I use over and over again. The nice thing is I got this little tablet PC that I can put in front and I can write on it, or I can have students write on it. And the most success I've had is when I've had students do a problem. Now, I just simply give them a problem like they're supposed to know how to do. One student came at the end of the semester and said, Dr. Holland, I hated it when you brought that tablet PC and put it in front of me. But if it hadn't been for that, I wouldn't have learned it as well as I did. And I'm looking back and saying, that was the best thing you ever did. I didn't like it, but that was the best thing you ever did. And so here's something. This is you do in a live classroom. Now, you can do this also in an online class. You can do this and archive it, and they can watch you work the problem in an online class as well. But I just wanted to show you how you would use it in a face-to-face class, because this technology works both ways. Okay. How about another? You all didn't do well on that last quiz. So, I'll give you a chance to recover. Takes me just a little while. Oops, we're still there. Okay. I'm back. I don't know if you know very much about forensic phonetics or not, but you're going to learn something about it now, okay? I'm going to give you a reading assignment to do at home, okay? And I'm going to flash it on the screen in just a minute, okay? And I want you to read it. Now, some of you are going to be pretty fast readers. I know that. Some of you are going to be slow readers. So I'm going to leave it up there long enough for the slowest reader to read it one time. And I'll just tell you in advance that I wrote this, and I wrote it in such a way that no matter how intelligent you are, you're going to read this and not get it on the first reading. Okay? So what you need to do, I want to give you about 7 or 8 seconds. So you need to position yourself so you can see the screen. Okay? And then I want you to read it. If you can get all the way through it once, if you're a fast reader, read it several times. Okay? Then I'll come back and we'll see how you did. Okay? Now, I'll say one more thing. I don't want any talking in class. So if you read this on there, I want no cheating. There will be no conversations among you, and then we'll have an exam. The exam is coming up, actually. And so I want you to read this and see if you can understand it. Okay? I'll give you 7 seconds. Oh, okay. That's enough. We're going to actually, I don't feel like I gave you enough time to really comprehend that, so I'm going to probably give you a little bit of help in class here. Let's do an in-class review of this. And yeah, I had you read that, but I didn't tell you how I was going to test you on it. So here's how I'm going to test you. We're going to actually break into this in a tinier way. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to look at it this next time. I'll give you another chance in class here. next time I want you to look at it, and I want you to count the number of times the letter F appears. Okay? And again, I want you to do this right. I want you to be correct as you can be. Read this and count the number of times the letter F appears. Okay, quiz. Okay? How many of you found at least one F? If you don't find one F, you're in terrible. How many found two? We're good. How many found three? A lot of you found three. How many of you found four? How many found five? How many found six?
Get to the last line.
Okay, I need to clarify something here. I want you to do this well. I don't want you to be confused by something, by the sound of the letter F. I want you to count the literal number of times the letter F appears, not the number of times the sound of the letter F appears. Are you with me? Okay. I'm hoping this will help out a little bit. Some of you aren't working very hard. Let's try one more time here. I'm going to repeat the review. Take a look at it. Count the number of F's. Okay. I'm not going to start with 1, 2. How many found 3? At least 3. How many did find 4? How many found 5? And how many found 6? How many of you are being influenced? I've always wanted to do this. That's good. I've always wondered whether I could be in a classroom sometimes and put something up there and see how many we could. How many of you that didn't say 4, 5, or 6 are looking at that and saying, something's funny here? Something's funny here, right? Yeah. Now, I was very clear on my instructions to you. I wanted you to count the number of times the letter F, not the number of times it sounded like the letter F, but the number of times the letter F appeared. Are you with me on that? So I'm going to give you, I don't know why you didn't get all. Everybody in class should have got all of them. I want you to count the number of times you see the word of in there. And then I want you to count the number of times you see F in there.
Amazing.
Now, how many people think there are 6 F's in there? Many of you had seen that before, but some of you came in here, if you came in here clean, you're looking directly at it. You can't see it. I told you not to be confused if it doesn't sound like an F. And that's because, here's why it happened to you. I'll tell you what, the why behind it. The word of sounds like OV. If you had phonetics in your background, your mind is saying that's a V, skip over it, because it doesn't sound like an F. And some of you were trained in such a way that phonetics was not there, and so you just went right through and found the F. And some of you were confused and said, I think he's trying to trick me, look at all those PHs in there. And that wasn't part of the issue at all. Okay. Again, I've got students coming into class, they have a pre-constructed learning. I have to break through that and put something else in its place. Okay? Find you believe it was Okay, the last thing I'm going to do, this is the one last thing. Just because there's a get out of this momentarily. Let's see here. Got it? This is another device. This is a graphics tablet. This is cheaper. This costs about $1,300. It's a tablet, and the prices are coming down on tablet PCs all the time. This is a tablet PC with an Intel i5 in it. It's got a lot of other capabilities as well. It's just a tablet PC. That's about $1,300. This is about $300. This is a graphics tablet. And let's see here. Hang on just a minute. There we go. And then I go to the bat.
You need the type setting.
Did it to me again. Okay, hang on just a minute.
You're there.
Always my worst grade.
Somehow that seems to be. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened just there. Let me go back and undo that. What? No, I'm not sure about anything. One of the reasons I've got all of this hooked up at once, and the computer doesn't like having everything hooked up at once, neither does Blackboard and Windows.
That's true.
And so putting all of them on one machine is, well, I'm not going to make this work. Sorry, Mark. I'm not quite sure. I am going to make it work. Okay. This normally works without a hitch. This is the same thing as a tablet PC, but you can't see what you're writing on. So you need some hand-eye correlation, hand-eye coordination. Statistics is on my mind right now. I taught a class this morning on correlation. Okay, so basically, this is pretty much. To the right than wrong. Okay. I didn't spell wrong very well. I didn't actually spell everything right. But actually, let's see if I can get that. Come on. Yeah, I've lost it here again. The reason I spelled better with an OR is to remind you that you need to take risks when you do things. And the writing, of course, it's better, you've heard the pen is mightier than the sword. For writing some of the stuff down, it's important for students to be able to see stuff that you're writing. And that's why this is here. And rather than wrong, actually, if I've lost my tablet PC, maybe I'm too far. I don't think that's the case. Any ideas, Lance? Yeah. I just got too much going on this machine. And rather than wrong, we don't want to be left out, right? So that you have to be worried about words carrying on multiple meanings when you're working with your students, because we're communicating, and again, they're coming in with their own culture, their own background, their own experiences, and we have to overcome that to give them new type of knowledge. Let's see, I think. Okay, so let me recap what I have here. What you saw, some of the things that you saw. This hover cam here cost $250. It's very portable. It's something you can take home with you. I run my online class from home. I worked this last week with 2 students that needed help right before an exam, and I didn't have everything online, but I had it in paper, and so pulled out the dot cam, put it up there, and was able to work with students. I didn't show you, but you can actually write on the document camera without writing on the document. So I can have the document there, and I can write in little writes in any color you want, and if all the students see it online, and I'm not writing on the original. So it's really kind of a nice feature. And I can actually take a picture of each one of those things and store it and send it, do other things as well. So for $250, this is really a pretty cool thing to have. This is about $250 to $300 as well. This works cheaper than a full-scale tablet PC does. I prefer the tablet PC myself. I keep pushing for that because I want to see what I'm writing on. And if you want to see what you're writing on, you need to have the full tablet PC of some sort. Prices are coming down all the time. But a graphics tablet works really well if you want to record something on Blackboard, and just a little bit of practice, you can use a graphics tablet and create an archive for students where you're doing audio over graphics tablet. You can do that pretty well, and that works pretty good for the students. So those are the three things that I'm focusing on. You'll notice that all three of these are remote, portable. This has to be hooked to a computer. This can walk around as Bluetooth. This is working through Wi-Fi. So any questions? That's all I had planned to present to you today. Any questions from you all? Any questions about anything? I really appreciate this many people showing up, and I thank you so much for your attention.
It's time for questions.
He already is. We went through that.